Hi everyone, my name is Chris and a very warm welcome to Chris Reviews. This is my first YouTube video ever and I'm delighted that you're here and that you're checking it out. So as you can see from the pictures on your screen, today we're going to be talking about this newly released reissue diver from Citizen. Please don't forget that if you thought the video was okay, hit that like button. That would mean a lot, and also at the end you could subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. That'll let you know when I post any new content. So with that done and without any further ado, let's get into the review. So Citizen then, one of the big three manufacturers to come out of Japan, I would say, along with of course Seiko and Casio. This one I did buy direct from Japan. It is available now in the UK, so there's no issues with that. I bought it because it wasn't yet out and it got to me a little bit quicker. As you can see, that's why all the gubbins is in Japanese. I don't mind that at all. Hang tag, pretty standard packaging. I don't know if the European one will differ in any way, but pretty standard stuff from Citizen. So yeah, so at the top of the video, I mentioned that this was the beast from the east, and it is. To tell you the story, obviously I'm a watch collector, like many of you are. I saw this online and I thought, oh yes please, I'll have one of those. But then I saw the dimensions and I was a little bit put off, I'm not going to lie. So the dimensions of the actual case are 46.5 millimeters. It has a thickness of 14.3 and it has a lug-to-lug width of 43.6. Now the lug-to-lug width is superb. It's very, very short and it means it wears very, very well. The main criticism that I had potentially was, oh my god, I'm going to buy this watch, I'm going to put it on my wrist and it's going to look ridiculously big. Well, no, not the case. That really short lug-to-lug actually makes it wear fantastically well. And to highlight my point here, I have another large Japanese watch, the Seiko Tuner, as you can tell. Now these two watches, they're famous because the Tuner's a bigger watch. In actual fact, on paper it's a lot bigger. Well, I say a lot bigger. The Citizen's 46.5, the Tuner, believe it or not, is 47.5, and of course it just doesn't look it. The Tuner obviously looks smaller because it's round. The Citizen, suffering from its case shape there with the big square corners, appears much larger, and it's not in actual fact, it's actually smaller than the Tuner. So just for your info. In so much as what I thought of my first impressions when I opened the box, I was really, really pleasantly surprised. I love the case. Now this one is super titanium. What is super titanium? Well, back in 2000, Citizen, as I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, came out with the Duratect coating for their watches, for their titanium watches, and it was just a method of prolonging watches getting scratched, you know, to build up a sort of scratch resistance on their watches, because titanium does scratch quite easily. Then later on, a few years later, they came up with a coating called Duratect MRK, and what that's actually quite sophisticated. It uses a gas hardening process to harden the titanium way beyond its natural properties. So what you get is a super hard, sort of almost scratch resistant coating. I don't think it's anything to do with this actual finish. This is a sort of bead blast finish. I think you could have any finish you want on the coating, but it's a really sophisticated process that makes the watches withstand the test of time much better. You know, they don't get scuffed, they don't get scratched. At least that's the theory. Although I did have a wee search on the internet and I came across an article which said that Citizen actually, when they came out with the MRK Duratect process, they actually gave their employees the Duratect MRK coated watches to wear for a whole year. They said, wear them every day, do whatever you want to do in them. And at the end of the year, they all came back and handed in their watches for inspection. And believe it or not, well, so Citizen's Bumf says, believe it or not, they all come back pretty much spotless. So I don't know. I've only had this one a few weeks, and as you can see, it's still in really nice condition, as you would expect, to be fair. I have worn it quite a bit in that time, but certainly no marks to speak of yet. So yeah, it looks tough. I think it will be tough. So let's talk about the model number then. This particular black and gold version is model number BN0220-16E. Now, another nice thing about this release was that they've actually released two other colourways, which I'll pop up a picture of just now for you. So, as you can see, the blue model number up on the screen now. I'll pop up the green model number in a second. Yeah, really nice. Obviously a little bit different. They've went with a darker style titanium, almost black, and they have sort of camouflage coloured dials. Yeah, all credit to Citizen. A little bit different, and yeah, nice to have the option. And this is indeed a reissue. So what is it a reissue of? Well, I'll show you. This particular watch was a reissue from 1982. Obvious differences then. We have the crown at 9 on this one, whereas it's at 3 in the new one. We have a day date in the original, where we just have a date now. And obviously the 4 screws at the corner of the shroud are present, well, they're not present in the new one. The dial remains very, very similar, apart from the text, and the handset is a little different on the older one. Minor things. I think it's nice to see that Citizen have changed it up and not given us a straight, a straight like-for-like remake. There was a lot of discussion about why didn't Citizen give us a greater water resistance? Why is it only 200 metres? It probably comes down to cost, and it's not something that bothers me, but you can see the clear DNA from the original watch there. So being a dive watch, you would expect it to have excellent lume, which it certainly does. And here it is, as you can see, glowing brightly. It's not full on glowing because I was messing about with my torch and getting the camera ready, but you can see clearly it's got some outstanding lume. I'll put in some pictures there of some shots when it was fully charged that I took. Interestingly enough, I did a little bit of research trying to find out what kind of lume Citizen use. Obviously Seiko have got their Lume Bright, the Swiss Luminova compounds for the Swiss watches, etc, etc. I couldn't find anything. All it sort of told me was that Citizen used their own proprietary lume, which doesn't really matter. You can see that it clearly works. It lasts a long time, and the lume certainly does not disappoint. So let's have a closer look at the dial then. You can't actually see it, but the dial actually is textured. It's a really, really nice effect. I'll pop up some pictures and other video I took of the dial. It's actually textured with a sort of stardust, sort of sandpapery effect. It looks really, really nice. And there it is outside in direct sunlight. You only really tend to get the effect of it when it hits direct sunlight. Not perhaps the best video. I'll pop a picture up that shows the effect a little bit better. It's just really, really pleasing, and it's an effect that really disappears during any normal lighting conditions, but in direct sunlight you can really pick out the dial. It does remind me of sandpaper with that glistening effect, and it really suits the watch perfectly, I think. As with any watch, connoisseurs, collectors will know if they buy them, then nothing is ever perfect. And this one is far from perfect either. Obviously the size won't be to everyone's taste. As I highlighted, it does wear very well, and it's actually got smaller dimensions slightly than the Mighty Tuna. But the one niggle I had with it was the bezel. In actual fact, the bezel, it looks beautiful. It's really chunky, it's really well machined. Again, titanium like the rest of the watch, but it's actually quite chunky. I don't know if you can hear this. It's just a little bit clunky, a little bit vague. Don't get me wrong, there's not really any backplay to tell of, and unlike Seiko, it does line up perfectly, so not too much to complain about. I was expecting a bit of a smoother bezel, perhaps 120 click bezel. It is only a 60 clicker, But yeah, nevertheless, it is there, it is present. If you love your bezels, if you love playing with your bezels, then this might be quite a big issue for you. Not really for me. It's not something that really bothers me. But yes, it is there. It's not really what I was expecting, to be honest. So, what are my final thoughts then? I'm sure anyone watching this video is either watching it because they're thinking about buying this watch, or maybe they were curious about how it looks. I say if you're thinking about this watch, then go for it. I wouldn't let the size dimensions on paper put you off. In my experience with it, it wears superbly well. That whole flow to the case just adds to the wearability. It wears really, really nicely. There's no sharp edges. The square size, yeah, I'll be honest, it does get a little bit of taking used to, just because we're all used to mostly rounder watches, but it's fantastically retro. I think it looks great. And when you consider the watch that it's actually a reissue of, then yeah, I think they've done it proud, and I think it's not something that should put you off. Long-term wear, we'll see how this coating holds up, but with their experimentation, I'm sure that the Duratec MRK process will prove to be a winner. And there we have it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, guys. I really appreciate it. If you thought it was okay, please hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. I'll be posting new content very soon. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.